I'll tell you, I've said this a million times. I could never be a healthcare, pharmaceutical, biotech analyst, investor. These stocks just rip left and right, and I have no idea what. Like, so Novo Nordisk comes out and says, I guess their experimental obesity shot, CagriSema, another stupid name. I mean, patients lost 20% of their weight over 68 weeks. To me, that's good. I don't know what but apparently not good enough. Stock down 20%. And this isn't like a small cap penny stock. This has got a market cap of $2.6 trillion.
Exactly.
It's crazy. So I'm glad I don't have to do it. John Murphy, he does it. We pay him to do this stuff. John Murphy is our senior pharma analyst. And anytime we don't have to talk to Sam Fazeli, that's a good day. So we talk to John Murphy on this pharma stuff. Hey, John, I don't know. Talk to us about the expectations for Novo Nordisk and this weight loss drug, the expectations and what they actually delivered.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks for having me. So I think one of the issues here, as you rightly said when you open there, 20% weight loss is fantastic, right? I think for the majority of people who look to take a weight loss drug, that would be beyond their dreams, and it certainly would be on the wildest dreams of most people 3-4 years ago. The real issue here, however, is that there are drugs out on the market already that already give that, and in particular Lilly Zepbound. And so this was Novo's product to come out and beat Zepbound. And Novo had been very, very vocal, extremely vocal at telling the market, we're looking for 25% weight loss. That's our level. And that was reiterated time over time. So that's what people were baking into their expectations.
Okay. So it sounds like they were being quite ambitious in terms of how they expected their things to come out, but then of course they're missing here when those are the expectations that Wall Street had for it. Who's winning the race right now? It sounds like Eli Lilly is the front runner here. Is that so?
Yeah, I think they are. I think it's well accepted both by the street and also by doctors whom we survey that Zepbound is more effective than Wegovy, and so therefore it is winning the race. As I said, this was supposed to be the answer from Novo. It didn't make it. But let's not think about this as being totally black and white. It never, ever is when we're dealing with obesity. The game is not over by any means. And I do want to point out, for example, that third quarter next year, we got a head-to-head study. So Novo's got a study where it's putting its CagriSema up against Zepbound. So CagriSema, the drug today that came in below expectations, going head-to-head. That's going to tell us an awful lot more. There's also issues in this study today, by the way, in the trial design that makes people question some of the data, and they may well actually rerun this study.
So when I'm looking on a year-to-date basis, we have Novo Nordisk shares down 21% year-to-date, but Eli Lilly shares are up 36% this year. For Eli Lilly, I want to know how much of the business is focused on weight loss drugs, and the same for Novo Nordisk. Why are we seeing Novo Nordisk shares down so substantially in comparison to their competitor Eli Lilly here?
So let me answer the second one first. If you look out to 2030, the market had $15 billion in for this drug, and it's basically more or less just wiped that out today. And I think, as I mentioned, there were very high expectations going in, and so there was a bit of a pair trade going on in the market with people being long Novo versus Lilly. So obviously that went out the other way today. I would turn it a slightly different way and answer it slightly different. Look at where the growth is coming from going forward. Not just the sales, but where is the growth coming from? And for both companies, essentially all of it is coming from weight loss and diabetes. So it's coming from these GLP-1 drugs and or their successors.
All right. As someone who likes to jab other people with this weight loss drug, which I do on a weekly basis, and it's a lot of fun, we make an event out of it. When is the oral form, the pill form, when is that coming? Because that could be, I think, the next leg up, I guess, in just kind of the uptake in this treatment.
Right, yeah, that's right. So we already have one on the market, not particularly effective, and that's Rybelsus from Novo. Novo's also got an oral semaglutide, which could come over the next year or two, but that itself has its own issues. So you're then looking at the Lilly one, orforglipron, and orforglipron, which you see about 12 to 14% weight loss on. We're getting data on that next year, so that could be on the market potentially the year after. And as you rightly mentioned, that could be a real significant game changer, not only in terms of the absolute weight loss there, although some people prefer to be injected, one injection a week as opposed to taking an oral pill. But the other thing it might do is it might have a big impact on weight maintenance. So let's say you lose 15 to 20% weight. With the injectable, you then move on to the oral, and that maintains the weight loss. Because what we see at the moment with the likes of Zepbound, if you stop taking it, you start piling the weight back on after a given time.
See, Paul, I need to know what day of the week you guys do this jab event.
Oh, it's Friday. It's Friday. Cocktails. We make a whole thing out of it, and boom.
Okay. John, tell me a little bit more about the healthcare industry and how it moves. Are we seeing a lot of these developments already priced in to the stock market, or are there some extraordinary developments that can really change the tide of this industry and its progress?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things happening at the moment. I think firstly, if we just focus on data and news flow, data are driving share price. The clinical study outcomes drive share prices. We've seen a lot of data in the last month or two, and unfortunately for most companies, it has been relatively negative. So you've seen a bit of a hit, and you introduced us right at the start talking about biotech investors. They've had a tough time of things recently. But second, if we just think bigger picture, if we look at the last 3 or 4 presidential elections, it was in the 12 months coming up to the presidential elections where pharma was underperforming, and it was underperformed because of the threat of healthcare reforms. But because of the Inflation Reduction Act, that has already set in stone, something that both sides were very, very comfortable with. So healthcare outperformed well ahead of the election. But what's happening now, of course, with the whole debate in the Trump administration, who's going to head up HHS, who's going to head up FDA, what might happen with regard to vaccines, etc. That's where you're seeing issues right now, both in pharma and also, of course, around the PBMs. In other words, what sort of pressure might come on them. So really what we're seeing now, particularly in the US, is reaction to what the new administration may do or is talking about potentially.